Recording now and go ahead and get started. So thanks for joining us, everyone. Nice to see this turn out. Is someone using, oh, there we go. I got muted. Thanks for coming. Libby Ellwood, I don't know where she is on your screen, but she is to my left. Is joining us to co-host and talk about WeDigBio. So we're really excited to chat about this. You all know me, Katie Pearson, the project manager for the California Phenology Thematic Collections Network, and this will be our first year getting on board with WeDigBio since we finally have some notes from nature expeditions. So we're excited to get that started. Take it away, Libby.
Thanks, Katie. Yeah, so as Katie mentioned, I'm here to talk with you guys a little bit about WeDigBio, and looking at the attendee list here with who's in this Zoom room. I know a lot of you guys have, or at least a number of you guys have some experience with WeDigBio already. So I would love to hear your side of things and hear about events that you may have hosted or projects that you may have participated in. And each event is so unique that I think if you're able to and interested in sharing your experience, that would be super helpful to this as well, because I know it more from the organizational side and putting the pieces together, but you guys who have hosted events obviously know it intimately in a different way. So I'm going to start at the start though, for those of us who might not be quite as familiar with WeDigBio. So I'll go ahead and share my screen and just tell you a little bit about what WeDigBio is all about. So WeDigBio is worldwide engagement for digitizing biocollections. And let me see, on my screen, our lovely faces are over the words. If I do this, that doesn't affect anything, does it? Well, we'll try this here. All right, and really what WeDigBio is all about is to bring all of us together to digitize collections, and in doing so, really put a focus on the science, the biodiversity, and the community that we have that is all about our collections and making them available. We have events taking place all over the world each year. So in my talk, I have pictures from past year's events, and this picture is an event that was hosted in India a few years ago. So one of the goals is obviously to increase the rate of digitization of biodiversity collections. When we're doing it all on our own in our own institutions, we are able to get a lot done. But when we are able to leverage a global event and bring many more people together, that really does help raise the profile of all of our collections. And so then collectively, we can increase the rate of digitization as well as building that community. This figure I wanted to include just to show you where WeDigBio fits into the greater workflow, and the details of each institution's workflow and your TCN workflow will be slightly different than this. But at the top, we have our bio collections in our universities, in our natural history collections, in our museums, and we want to make those data, the images and the information associated with all the specimens, we want to make those broadly available, right? And so obviously a big part of that is transcribing the text information that is associated with the specimens. And then coming down to the bottom right here, that's where WeDigBio comes in, and engaging citizen scientists or community scientists in the process will help us increase the rate that we can transcribe. And WeDigBio happens in a couple of ways. It is internet-based, and so therefore the two main ways are either people just kind of doing it on their own at home, in their living rooms, wherever, or folks potentially like you guys hosting it at your institutions to bring individuals together in the same space to collectively and collaboratively transcribe that information. And then all of that information then gets fed on down the stream. The transcriptions are verified and either programmatically or by numerous people doing it. Each transcription platform handles it in a slightly different way. But with that, a bunch of processing magic takes place, and then ideally the the path is completed, the circle is completed when those digital data are then enter your collections again, adding digital information to those physical specimens. So that's really the ultimate goal, is for this to come full circle and for you to then have the digital information about your collections in addition to the physical specimen. So we are focused here on the WeDigBio side of it. And so, as I mentioned, it could happen on site, wherever that might be, and it could happen online just anywhere around the world. These 5 transcription platforms are the 5 original ones: Digivol, Urbanot, Notes from Nature, Smithsonian Transcription Center, and Symbiota. Each year we end up having a couple of extras depending on what projects are interested in being a deeper part of the project. And you guys will probably focus most on Notes from Nature, so we'll run through that a little bit later. This is our 5th year of WeDigBio, 2019, and so the first year was 2015. I'll share some stats from that because it was, we got off to a really great start and we collected a lot of great data that from that year. So the image on the left represents little pings from IP addresses of where people are doing the transcriptions. On the right, you see a tally of transcription tasks that happen as they happen by transcription center. We will maintain these, we have maintained these each year, and we'll do that again this year. So if you were to go to our website now, wedigbio.org, you would see the 2018 versions of these figures kind of updating as they did last year. And then they will be refreshed this year. And then, so right now there's just a countdown till when these will kick off for our 2019 event. We have hundreds of participants on site and hopefully a bunch that you guys will host this year. We complete tens of thousands of transcription tasks, and we have dozens of on-site events all over the world. Just to give you guys a sense of how productive we are during this time, I won't go into too much of the detail here, but the red lines are the WeDigBio event, the blue lines are 1 month before the event, and the green lines are 1 month after the event. And so you could see there are these fluctuations that happen throughout the day, but this huge red spike represents really the Saturday events that took place during WeDigBio during that year. So it really is a huge push for transcriptions during that time. What we also noticed when we crunched these numbers from this first year was that not only was there a huge push during the 4 days of the event, but also there was some stickiness to it. So there was an uptick in the base level of participation on the online transcription platforms. So that green line was raised a little bit 1 month after the event. So that was good to see that not only did people become engaged during the event, but they remain active in a lot of the transcription projects that we had. So this is where people have participated from around the world. And each year it's slightly different, but we do end up with a lot of participation from North America and Europe, and then and Australia as well, and a smattering of events and participation elsewhere. In addition to the stuff that is online through Notes from Nature, we have some other things that we do to try to enhance the experience. So when you sign up for an event, we'll mail you a bunch of stickers and tattoos, and we encourage you to have events around the WeDigBio event itself. So to, if you can, have a researcher give a talk about the research that they're doing, maybe using the specimens from your project. We have had university classes work WeDigBio into their curriculum, and that has worked out pretty well because there are a lot of things you can do with this activity. You could take it from the kind of research perspective, and like for you guys, maybe a California phenology lesson could be pretty interesting to build around a WeDigBio event, but it could even be more computer sciencey, or it could be, however you want to take it. There are a lot of options. And we also have a really active social media presence. Twitter is our main way of sharing photos, sharing cool tidbits from our events, etc. But we also do have some presence on Facebook and Instagram as well. And Katie can tell us a little bit about the events that she's been a part of.
Yeah, so my first exposure to WeDigBio was at Florida State University, where I did my graduate work. And Austin Mast is also one of the big hitters when it comes to leading WeDigBio. He's one of the founding members. And we had a lot of fun at these events. We just had people come in on a Saturday morning, and they would come in. There would be a very short presentation. We would show them how to transcribe. We'd let them go for a couple minutes, you know, half an hour, and then we do a number of games that Libby is going to show you presently. But they were really fun, and you can go to the next slide, Libby.
Oh yeah, I have to do that.
As you can see, lots of fun being had here. What Austin did is he would offer extra credit as well in courses for people to attend, because the events we were leading at that time were about 3 hours, which was a little bit of a Saturday morning commitment, but offering some extra credit was pretty helpful. But we got a lot of activity from those. So this chart on the bottom is transcriptions over time, and the last bar is, I think that's October, when the notes from nature, or those are the last 2 days actually during WeDigBio. So that's when we had tons of transcription happening, and were really productive. All right, next slide. And then at Cal Poly, we didn't have any notes from nature expeditions up by last October because we hadn't started digitization yet. But there were notes from nature. I think there were some up in April. So in April, we celebrated Citizen Science Day, which is somewhat related to WeDigBio, where we used WeDigBio games and engaged students to do notes from nature transcriptions on that day, which was also fun and also well attended because we offered extra credit. That's all I have.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks, Libby.
Yeah. So like Katie said, extra credit is a great way to engage students if you are in a position to do that. Donuts and giveaways and competitions. And in Florida, Austin has done a really good job of working with the Native Plant Society, and will give away plants, for example, for different competitions. And so there are all kinds of ways to encourage people to come if you do have a weekend event, which sometimes might require a little bit of extra enticing. The event always goes on a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So we try to schedule everybody within those days, and that's Thursday anywhere in the world to Sunday anywhere in the world. So it ends up being kind of like 5 days. And so it's the third Thursday of October, which this year is, actually I have my thing hidden here. I'm gonna have to move it so I can even see my own dates. It won't let me do that. There we go. October 17th to the 20th this year. And we do encourage folks to sign up soon so that we can mail out stickers and tattoos and make sure that you're on board and have all the help and assistance you need to be able to run the event smoothly. So I'm going to stop sharing this now. Or actually, I'll put this up here for a second, and knowing that this is recorded, if you wanted to refer back to it later, you can. So this is our website, WeDigBio.org. We are on WeDigBio on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram as well. And feel free to reach out to me or Austin. We are the main points of contact for the event this year. So our contact information is there. So now I will stop sharing for a quick second. And if there are questions or comments, I can take those now. And then after that, I will navigate through Notes from Nature and then the WeDigBio website to show you a little bit more about that. But before I do, are there any questions yet?
I just had to unmute, sorry. So if the particular dates of the WeDigBio event weren't convenient, either because we weren't teaching an appropriate course in the fall or et cetera, can we do the activity at any time of year?
Yeah, you can do the activity any time of year, and your Notes from Nature expedition is on all the time as long as there are specimens up there to be transcribed. So, and or you can participate in any one of the other projects. The trick is that when on those figures I showed of the map with the little pings on it and the transcription tasks tallying up, your transcriptions won't be included in those. But if you fall within just like a week or so of the event itself, we will be sure to follow on social media and retweet and engage with you as we can during that event. You just won't have the full benefit of doing it while everybody else also is.
Okay, and then the second quick question that I had is, and maybe you're going to talk about this later, in which case, you can answer it when you will. Is there a workflow planned for getting images and instructions up in Notes from Nature?
So maybe Katie can answer that more specifically, but that will happen either at an institution level or at your TCN level. So right now you guys have a ton of images up in your Notes from Nature expedition, and so I'll show you guys all of that in a minute. And then the logistics of getting those images up there is you guys work directly with Notes from Nature to do that, and then WeDigBio is kind of the umbrella over all of the people that are doing that with their own expedition, and then we're just kind of the talliers and the social media people kind of putting those pieces together. But the logistical side is more on your end. So I don't know, do you want to speak to that now, Katie?
Sure. Yeah, WeDigBio is the hype.
Yeah, exactly.
So for us, you'll work with me if you want to get an expedition up there, and you pretty much just show me how to get to all of the images that you want transcribed. Obviously, you'll want them to be ones that haven't already been transcribed, so a way to download those as a Darwin Core archive, basically. And then I set up the expedition. I get some information from you about how we want to brand the expedition, like what it's called, short information about it, etc. And then we set it all up. I show you a test run of it, and then we just get it approved by the Notes from Nature program manager, and then we can just set it up and go from there. It's actually a pretty easy process. It just takes, there are just a couple of steps, so you just get in contact with me and we can set that up.
Thanks. Yeah. So you guys have a bunch of images up there already, so I'll share my screen again, and we can walk through that, unless there were any other questions that we wanted to think about before that.
Oh, I do want to comment that you don't have to use only your own images with WeDigBio. You can, if you don't really think you have an expedition up, or you don't want an expedition up, or all of your data are already transcribed, this is still a good chance to help everyone else in the TCN get transcribed. So that is a good use, regardless of whether you have your own images up.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, and it is kind of cool even to see what other projects are doing or other parts of the world are doing if you don't have something up yourself. So let's look at Notes from Nature now. So here is Notes from Nature, which is just it. If I go to notesfromnature.org, it will reloop me to the Zooniverse link, but Notes from Nature is where a lot of the transcriptions happen. And so it's loading all the projects. So you can see that there are a whole bunch of projects happening through the Notes from Nature platform. And this is all of them. There are some that are focused on butterflies or bugs, or you guys here. Notes from Nature capturing California's flowers. So I will walk you guys through this real quick in case you haven't seen it yet. And a couple of notes about all of this. You do not need to register to be able to transcribe on Notes from Nature, although we do encourage you to do so, because then it makes a cool little dashboard for you. It's free, it's easy, and then you'll have your personal count of how many transcriptions you do, and it's just kind of fun, but of course optional. So if you're working with a class or a room of strangers and volunteers from your community, you don't feel like you have to have everybody register. It's just encouraged. So you go to Notes from Nature, and when you click on your project, it'll walk you through some of the information about the project, the research you guys are doing, all the cool stuff that's happening with your TCN. And so you could learn more. And this is where it goes through the research and the team and all that about it. And then if I were to come down here, I can see some stats about it. And this is kind of fun, I think, for your participants to know that not only is your individual project really popular and really interesting and lots of people are contributing to it, but these stats exist for all the other projects too. So I think feeling like you're part of something bigger is really kind of neat. So you could click on here, the Fresno State Herbarium or Long Beach and LA, and then it'll walk you through a little bit of a tutorial about herbarium specimens and exactly what information you will find on a specimen, and then how to input that data into this platform and into the particular boxes that they request. And each one will be slightly different. So you could walk through this tutorial, and I recommend you guys do this before you have a room full of people, but I would encourage your people to do it as well, just so everybody has a chance to really just sit with it and think about it for a sec. So it does go through pretty particularly, or pretty specifically, just what information they request. And then let's go. So you'll see these are some of the recently digitized specimens, and then here we have the label. And in Notes from Nature, there are all these little navigation tools, so you can zoom in and out and navigate around the specimen to get closer up to that label, or to look at some cool flowers or other parts of the specimen itself. And then here on the right side is where you will input the requested information. So here they're looking for the collector number, the month, the day, the year. Some of these are pull down, some of them are text that you would just enter yourself. So that's the basics of it. You could always return to that tutorial that they presented at the beginning. And then next will be, we'll take you to the next image if you wanted to see that as well. And if you wanted to continue transcribing on and on and on. So, and there's always need help with this task, and there's a talk feature that Notes from Nature maintains. And I would imagine, Katie, you probably frequent that, as well as the Notes from Nature administrators as well. So if you ever do have a question, feel free to post it up there and someone will get back to you. And that would be Notes from Nature specific or specimen specific questions, not necessarily WeDigBio specific, although most folks are familiar with it who would be responding to you there. But it would be more like, hey, there are two collectors on this. Should I put both names in? Or, some kind of question like that if you had one that was specific. So this is the Notes from Nature platform, and the information that you put in there, once you complete the requested information on this, that would count as one transcription task from Notes from Nature, and that is what would get tallied on our WeDigBio figure. And then it would also collect your IP address, which we couldn't find exactly where you were located, but at least at a city level, we would know where that location where that transcription had happened, and then you'll get a little ping on the map from where you were transcribing. So that is the Notes from Nature side of things. So maybe I'll take a second here to stop sharing and then open it up to any more questions.
I have a couple of comments, Libby, about
Notes from
Nature through ours. So the need help with those this task, little links that were on that page, those bring up field-specific tutorials. So there will be common questions like, should I enter several collectors? What do I use to separate multiple collectors? Things like that. Those specific questions are often in those I need help with this task links. There's also, you might have seen it on the far right side, a little tab that says Field Guide on it. And that's kind of more delving into some harder questions that we've gotten through the talk. So if there are really detailed questions, you can look at the field guide as well. And all of the the pages, so the fields that we're asking to be transcribed and all the tutorial information, that's all customizable on my end. So Susan, when you set up an expedition, you can actually choose different fields that you want to be transcribed. And we just customize that depending on, we try to balance lots of data with not tiring out our participants. So that's kind of a hard balance, but I feel like we've gotten a pretty good workflow so far. So those are my comments.
Thanks, Katie. Yeah. And yeah, so if you are, even if you're at home on that Saturday during WeDigBio and transcribing a bunch of specimens from Notes from Nature, those will show up on the WeDigBio tallies. Same as if you were at an event that is hosted in LA or Santa Barbara or anywhere that might be hosted by one of your institutions. So all of those tallies during the event will count towards the WeDigBio tallies. And also what I encourage you guys to do is especially if your institution has specimens up there and you're personally interested in getting those transcribed, but of course, just to generally promote the event and your TCN's activities, reach out to everybody you know to transcribe, because anybody anywhere in the world will have access to this and be able to help as well. So regardless of whether events are taking place in Kenya or China or wherever else you guys might have your networks, I encourage you to reach out there to build that network of people contributing to your cool work. And I haven't been paying as close attention to the chat there, but looks like Katie, you have, so I will leave that be.
Yeah, Kate was asking whether her transcribers, when they've entered something, I know sometimes this happens to me, I'll enter something and click finish specimen and then go, oh, I put the wrong data in the wrong field or something. And she asked whether you can go back and change that. And unfortunately, there is no way to do that. However, all of the specimens that you enter in Notes from Nature get transcribed 3 times. And that is to help enable or ensure that we have at least moderately good quality data, knowing that strangers from all over the world and of all ages and skills are going to be entering these data.
Yeah, that's an important point. So we always encourage people to fill it out, and if something is confusing, to take your best guess at it and put that information in there. And then if things are not accurate, then the person on the end of the data flow will have a final look at it. And so don't be afraid that your data will go straight into the database and be online for everybody to work with. There are many checks and balances along the way.
Matt also asked a question. We'd like to propose a WeDigBio event to update currently digitized records with barcode numbers. Will saving an existing record in Symbiota be tallied as activity by WeDigBio during the event?
So Symbiota, I don't believe we are currently inputting or ingesting Symbiota data into WeDigBio. That said, we have been able to work directly with institutions who are working with a particular Symbiota project to make sure that those are tallied. So if you are having an event and would like us to consider that and to build that route to your to those data, then please reach out and we can see if that's possible.
Yeah, luckily you can keep track of those numbers, Matt, as I'm sure you're aware of. When you have a certain number that need to be linked and you see that going down, you should be able to say, well, at least during this day, we completed 300, 1,000.
Yeah, and we have done exactly what Katie described in the past, where we might not be able to have a live feed. Most of the transcription platforms like Notes from Nature will give us a semi-live feed of the tasks coming in. So it might be every 5 minutes, it might be every hour, but we do have a fairly regular update to their data. With Symbiota, it might just be every 24 hours or some more coarser level update, but we could probably work something out. So yeah. Yeah, right. And it's important to let the volunteers know that their contributions are counting. So for sure, we can make something happen with that. All right, well, maybe I will visit the WeDigBio page and just show you guys that real quickly. Let me go back to here. So when you go to WeDigBio.org, this is what pops up. And there's places here on the right and throughout the site, really, that you'll see to sign up to be an event host. And even if you're just 50-50 on hosting an event, or maybe even more than 50-50, but this doesn't necessarily commit you, but we will put you on the email list once you fill out this sign-up form, and we will then follow up with you to get an address to send you stickers and that kind of stuff. So I do encourage you to sign up to be an event host if you're probably maybe thinking about it. And that way you'll at least get all the updates and information as we start to make more plans and date-specific events available. So here on the site, you can learn more about WeDigBio, and here's that dashboard that I showed you some screenshots of. This is last year's dashboard. And then we also feed in from our Twitter and Instagram pages as well. And it's kind of fun to have, if you host an event, it's sort of fun to have a social media person, or just a person who is not just deep in the world of notes from nature and transcribing, but is also keeping an eye on social media and things, because it's pretty fun to see what other people are doing. And often an event will put out a challenge for other events and say, hey, we found a specimen from 1910. Does anybody have one older? And then an hour goes by and then somebody says, oh yeah, hey, we have 1895, or hey, we found this really weird collection locality. It was a Walmart parking lot. Like, what else have you guys found? And, oh, hey, we found an Arby's parking lot or something. So it's kind of fun to keep an eye on that and to participate in the challenges and to present challenges to others as well. And that's kind of the fun of having WeDigBio, is that, sure, you can do it in your living room, and we encourage folks to do that too, but the social parts of WeDigBio make it pretty interesting. So I'll let you guys on your own time go through some of the information that we have stored on here, like our blog and all about the team and whatever else. I'm going to focus here on the resources. And we have some educational exercises. I'll show you this page, but I'll spend more time on a different one in a second. But here we have some educational resources. Most of these are lesson plans and things that people have shared with us that have worked well in their classrooms in the past. There are a couple of videos that walk through various aspects of this workflow and the importance of collections for research and education. And then there are some exercises that people have done in their classrooms. And if you end up doing either one of these or modifying one of these or developing your own exercise for your class, I would love to hear more about it and share it on our website if you're into that. And because I think even having some basic ideas, even if you end up modifying them, but just having a sense of what other people do and who other people work it into various classes that they're teaching is helpful. So even if you don't feel like your class was, super mind-blowingly amazing when you did WeDigBio, just having some tidbits of how you worked it into your curriculum is super helpful. So I'd love to be able to share that. So in addition to these educational exercises, there are some event planning documents. I won't walk through all of these, but these give you a kind of calendar of, okay, 1 month before the event, try to make sure you have all these things lined up, make sure you have your room ready, your computers connected to the internet, and all of that kind of stuff. So poke around on the event planning page to see more of that. And press kit. If you do have an event that's open to the public, you might want to put some information out there, either through social media or through your university or museum newsletters, things like that. So here are some text-based things you can share and pull from and modify for whatever purposes. I'm going to take a second to focus on the games here, because these can be educational and fun for people, even if it's not part of a class. But if you just have people from the public in your event. And I also encourage you guys to modify these however you see fit. And so we've had people do all kinds of interesting things with them. We have, the games are pretty much organized by some of the typical fields that are requested on the transcription platforms. So timeline tracker, as you could imagine, is based on the year that the specimen was collected. And I downloaded that one here. So let me see if I can pull that up and show you what that one looks like. And then, let's see. Oh, is it going to make me do that? Shoot, I need to download this again. Oh, I can show you here. So this is just an example based on some of the, this was originally made for an event in Florida. So we go back to the year 1900 because a lot of the collection was from after that time period. If you have collections that are only from the 1950s on, or that go back to the 1800s, then you might want to adjust your timeline tracker. And you could also add events that might be more specific to either your location or the taxa that you're working with. But the idea here is that you would print these out and give them to your participants, and then as they're transcribing, they would tick off on the timeline tracker the collection year of the specimen that they just transcribed. So if they transcribed a specimen from 1975, then they would put a little tick there, and on and on. And then you would give your participants maybe, see how it goes, but 10 or 15 minutes to work through their timeline tracker. And then you would, you could give prizes for, let's say, who found the oldest specimen, who found the most recent specimen, who found the specimen most close to one of these events that are listed on your tracker. For example, like closest to 1953 when Mount Everest was first ascended, and things like that. So you can get creative with these types of games and make them work well for your event. And we've tried to share some of what other people have done here as well. So if you modify yours, then we'd love to put it up here. So here's a bingo game, and these are really popular and pretty easy to do. You could even kind of automatically populate this with some of the terms that you're most likely to encounter. If you have a spreadsheet of habitat text information, for example, you could see what words come up most common with a quick, even in Excel, you could do a quick pivot table and see what words are most likely to be encountered when people are transcribing. But similar to the timeline tracker, these are words that for this event in Florida, people were most likely to come across in the habitat field, which was requested from the Notes from Nature platform. And then you could do any kinds of bingo level or bingo type games you want, be it up or down or cross or a full sheet. So and then award some kind of prize for the winner of this bingo. And everybody's will be different. So there's not a great way to verify that somebody actually did come across a specimen that was collected in the sandy habitat, for example, but all of this is kind of honor system and just for fun anyway. So everybody's habitat bingo will be filled out slightly differently. If I come across a sandy specimen and somebody else doesn't, that's just kind of the nature of it. But we have had people do all kinds of different bingo games for their particular collections, and they're always pretty fun.
I just shared one that I had modified based off of habitat information in California specimens, because there's not really such thing as a swamp in California quite as much as there is in Florida.
Yes. Yeah, it is. I do encourage you to modify them so that you do have people actually getting bingo and not just sitting there waiting for swamps. Yeah. And this geolocator one is another fun one where you could do it at any level you like. This is a state level one. So if they were to find a specimen from each state or the most number of states or other localities, and if you could just, if all your specimens are from California, for example, you could have a map of California with some of the major cities on it, and then the participants would put a dot next to the cities, and then the awards could be given for collections found closest to where you are, furthest from where you are, or closest to Los Angeles or San Francisco, or whatever you like. So the games are a good way to not only kind of add some fun and competition to the events, but also kind of have people think a little bit more deeply about what they're transcribing, and to think like, oh, wow, that really was an old specimen, or wow, this one was just collected last year, or this one was really far away. So that's all kind of, I think, a fun part of the event.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
The thing that I'm most nervous about having either students or the public record are the georeferences. Like in my lab, when I have students georeference, I have them do it in teams or in pairs, just so that they can kind of double check each other. I don't know if it's because UCSB students are particularly untrustworthy, I mean, I don't think they would deceive me or anything. It's just that they don't necessarily have the acuity that we would want for high quality data. And I was wondering what experience you've had with the public doing geolocation.
Yeah, so in Notes from Nature, just as an example, how you set up those fields will determine the precision with which you are requesting the information. So if it's just a verbatim transcription, like the corner of Mission and Maine, then that's all that will be transcribed, and they don't actually need to find that location on a map. They're just, doing the text. If you were to have your students or your event participants do it, actually finding it on a map and somehow recording that like through geolocate, we have had mixed results. And I'm sure it's not just UCSB students, FSU and Tulane students that we did an actual georeferencing experiment with to see how accurate and precise they were. It ran the gamut. And to be honest, part of that is just the fact that it can be tricky, and you really have to know where the habitat is. And sometimes the locality information is kind of vague, and it just says 5 miles north of Santa Barbara. And you happen to know that, oh, well, that's because there is this park there, and they likely found it on the side of this street near that park, and et cetera. It's not necessarily exactly 5.000 miles due north. It's, slightly off or whatever. So, and that said, sometimes it doesn't even have to be super exact to be useful for research, or depending on how you would like that entered into your database down the line. Anyway, not to enter more nuance there, but there are a bunch of different ways you could handle that. And with WeDigBio, we don't necessarily collect that particular information. So that would be how you would like to proceed.
Yeah, in Notes from Nature, we just have a locality field, and they enter all the locality information verbatim. And we don't, actually, the way that we've set it up, based on my previous experience cleaning these data, instead of having them enter the coordinates if they're on the label, we just have them basically check a box that says there are coordinates on this label, because in the past, they have entered them in all sorts of weird ways, entered weird symbols. And so we just have a collection. When I sent the data back to Kirsten and Amanda, I said, here is the subset that need a student to go look at them and manually enter the coordinates into Symbiota. And there were only like 50 or 100 of them anyways. So it kind of, we just get the basic transcription through Notes from Nature, and any more detailed, more reliable data is going to come through paid or well-experienced people.
Yeah, and the ability to curate what your Notes from Nature platform or expedition looks like, as Katie described, is helpful too. So if you're familiar with your specimens and know that, yeah, subset have this characteristic to them, and we would like to flag that in some way, that is helpful for the workflow. Any other questions about WeDigBio, about hosting events? Are there folks here who have hosted events who would like to share any either helpful tidbits or interesting things that they've learned from past events?
I really like the games. People get really into them. And then in my experience with Austin, he was really liberal with prizes. So he would just bring a box full of like Lindt chocolates, and then he'd be like, all right, who got something closest to their birthday? Good job. Who got something, you know, of this species? Good job. You know, just make it a big party.
Yeah, I totally agree with the party aspect to it. And you could have some big prizes too for some legit competition. But yeah, just make it a fun, like everybody's a winner kind of approach is good too.
Yeah, and if the students register like what Libby was talking about, or the volunteers register, they can, at the end of WeDigBio event, they can go to their dashboard and look at the little circle and see how many transcriptions they did during that whole time. So that's kind of fun.
Are folks on the call here thinking of potentially hosting or participating in WeDigBio this year?
Some nods.
Yeah. Any sense of a good average length of time for one group of volunteers? Yeah, that's a good question. We often see folks doing it as short as within an hour or so class period, and that works totally fine. You do maybe like a 10-minute intro. You could have them transcribe for a half an hour and introduce like some games, and then wrap it up at the end and cover any relevant bits that you wanted to. We have had, as Katie described from Florida, events that are maybe 3 hours or potentially even longer. And, you know, you might have a snack break in the middle. We've had folks have like coffee and donuts and things like that. Or you could have a collections tour at the end, and that's kind of a nice prize, or a research lecture somewhere in there, just a short, like 10, 15-minute kind of, hey, this is somebody who used these specimens in a cool research project. So depending on the kind of like add-ons that you wanted to do, I'd say give yourself at least 45 minutes to an hour, you know, if it's a class situation, but then, you know, 3+ also works.
Do any of you have experience hosting events that require a fair amount of training of the attendees? I'm imagining for phenological scoring where, you know, you need to identify flowers in different developmental stages or fruits, different stages of maturation. You know, that might be very hard to do in certain species, and some training will be necessary. So I wonder what it looks like for an event like that.
Yeah, actually, I would say an event is a great way to do some of those more complex tasks, because you are an expert on site and able to walk around and help somebody and answer their questions and provide you could even have something on hand, like a real specimen, and say, well, this is what full fruit would look like, or something like that. But I don't know, Katie, when you had your phenology project up, were any of those done by event participants or?
No, I've never done phenological scoring through an event, but I can imagine, I was going to say the same thing that you said, that I think that'd be really helpful, because then you have someone to come to you and say, wait, is this a fruit? And you would say, no, because, or yes, because, rather than just taking a wild guess. And I feel like people would feel more empowered and able to do that because they have that instant feedback, and they don't just give up and go, oh, never mind, I don't know what a bud is.
Yeah, and ideally the Notes from Nature and all the transcription platform expeditions are designed for somebody to read the tutorial and complete the task. So some of them are certainly more complex or complicated or require a little bit of experience, but hopefully the materials are there for them to dig into and be able to complete it.
Thank you.
Happy to see that a few people in the chat are thinking of hosting, so that's great.
Yeah, Josh and Rebecca at the McFadden Herbarium at Fullerton and the Irvine Herbarium, they're putting together an expedition right now, and they're going to be on pretty soon and engaging lots of people. I think with the California Native Plant Society down there, right?
We will be talking with them.
Great.
Very cool. We have had events in the past too. Let's say there are a number of events taking place on Saturday morning that they'll open up a video feed. It could even be something like this, and they're just kind of live streaming their event to other events. And then, so in addition to some of the challenges that I described, like, hey guys, what's the oldest specimen you found over there? You could just kind of have a fun back and forth with another event. Like, hey, what kind of specimens are you guys working on? And especially if they're part of the same TCN, that's a great way to kind of build that community and help folks feel like they're a part of something bigger.
Yeah, maybe there are only 5 participants at yours, but there are 5 at the others too. And so you can just kind of be like, oh, yay, we're all doing the same thing. We're an hour away. One thing that we're planning on doing over here at Cal Poly is I'm giving a workshop. This isn't quite WeDigBio related, but we're still using notes from nature. But prior to the California Native Plant Society meeting, which usually happens on Thursday nights, we're planning on having a workshop right beforehand so people can just come early, sit down at a computer and learn how to do this, so then they can go and do it in the future. So unfortunately, we weren't able to get that going for this next meeting in October in preparation for WeDigBio, but we'll be doing it shortly after in November, hopefully.
Oh, that's really cool. I like that idea of just a little teaser, kind of a little intro to it, and then they can go back and do more. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Because like you were saying, the in-person training is really important.
What I would imagine that we would do today is, have photos of the different examples of the reproductive organs that we would want people to record if we want them to be able to discern the range of variation associated with a given phenophase. And of course, that'll differ between species.
Yeah, pictures are really important.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, and lots of people might not be familiar, depending on your audience, lots of people might not even be familiar with specimens. And so having some specimens on hand could be kind of cool. So they see the thing in real life in addition to the images that they're transcribing from.
Yeah, we always brought several example specimens that we just parade around Vanna White style. Well, if no one has any other questions, I think that this is a good time to conclude our webinar. Thank you all so much for attending, and let's thank Libby with your silent claps for coming and introducing us to WeDigBio. We're really excited to have some events with our California Phenology project.
Yeah, thanks so much. It was great talking with you guys today, and I'm really excited that some of you guys will be participating, and definitely feel free to reach out if you have any questions or concerns or have no clue where to start or have done it a million times and want something fresh. I'd love to chat with you guys more. So sign up on the website or reach out to one of us directly and we could keep it going.
Great. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, Libby.
Thank you. That went longer than I expected, but hopefully folks got the gist of it.
Oh, I think it was perfect. I think that we covered a lot of really important stuff.
Cool. Well, yeah, I'm happy that you hosted this. I think